Hello, and welcome to today's episode on the Moving from Fear to Trust series. I am joined today by Anna Kuusela, who is a former management consultant who worked for some of the biggest fashion and luxury companies as part of KPMG and many others. Today, she runs her own international coaching business for future female leaders. She's the author of The Wonder Woman Playbook and hosts a weekly podcast called Good Vibes Only. She's on a mission to empower women to be authentically themselves, and I'm so excited to introduce you to Anna. I was luckily in the Return to the Feminine Summit by Olga Brooks last year, and Anna was one of the speakers, so that's how we connected. And I've been following Anna ever since, and I just love just her energy. And yeah, so I'm so excited to share with you her message and her good vibes. And yeah, so thanks, Anna, for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashling.
Yeah, so tell me, you obviously had a background in management, and like, how did you decide to take that leap from, say, a very established career into the great unknown?
Wow, that's a great question to start with. So I was in management consulting for 10 years, and I think what happened to me happens to many. So when I went into consulting, I thought I'll just do this for a few years. And after having career in Finland, where I'm originally from, for 2 years, I decided to move to London. And then I got into a super exciting consulting company and enjoyed the work for 8 more years. But then I realized that I had something within me that was asking me to do more. I started thinking like I could be doing more, creating a bigger impact and doing more with my time and with my resources. And I started, for the first time ever, I started craving for that business, for my own business, for being an entrepreneur, creating something new. And I never had this before. So I guess it was a balance between, yes, having the security of a job and, well-paid job in London, being in consulting, and then the great unknown where there was like this burning fire, this desire that I just felt like I needed to follow. So sometimes it is that, the desire was bigger than the security aspect. And I just decided to go for it. But I need to say that because I've already moved countries, I left Finland, I've been living in various different countries, and I've done kind of big moves before as well. So I was kind of aware of where I'm going to tiptoe into. So in a sense, although this was a new thing for me to do because I never had my own business before, but in a way I had experience of the, like, when you just don't know, you have so much ambiguity about what's to come. So I knew how to manage those emotions.
And so, like, for people who are navigating that path right now in different ways, they maybe have left a career or maybe considering doing so. Like, what are the emotions that you do have to navigate? Like, what are the big ones for you?
Well, I think one of the things is first and foremost to understand what is the emotion you're actually feeling, because we have so many different emotions, but sometimes we're not sure if we label them correctly. So also the labeling thing is, how do you want, so if you're feeling fear, what does that actually mean? A lot of people are like, fear is bad, I should not be fearful, I should be brave. But it doesn't mean that if you're brave that you don't have fear. So it's just, for me, it's very much understanding how am I feeling and what does it mean to me. And then for me, it was a lot of time spent with, okay, I'm a little bit afraid now. And then I tell myself, of course I'm afraid because I'm doing something new. Like, it's okay to be afraid, but you know what? It's a little bit like I would be my own best friend. I'm like, you know what? I am afraid, but I am still going to do this new thing.
Yeah.
And it's constant, I think, appreciation of what you feel, because, it's like a pendulum. When you have a good thing, you also have a bad thing. Like, it's constantly moving. So there's no idea to, I don't think it makes sense to suppress the emotions.
Yeah.
But just acknowledge that they are there and still do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't wait to not feel that. And, because I think that's the thing that you think, oh, I'll wait till I feel confident. I'll wait till I feel I
Yeah.
have all my ducks in a row or everything is lined up exactly the way it's meant to be.
Yeah. You'll be waiting for a long time, hey?
Yeah, exactly. I think you'll be waiting for it till the end of time.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, yeah, so obviously, as you said, you took that big leap of leaving Finland and, making that change over to living in London. So, already having that experience, I suppose you were able to draw from like how you are able to actually adapt yourself to change. Because I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? It's like the barrier to change because I think for me anyway, like moving from fear to trust is actually moving from something that you know to the unknown is so terrifying to our ego because we're losing like the reference points of um, what we know as safe. So is there any kind of tips that you can give us to help feel safe in the uncertainty?
Wow. And you put it so beautifully. I think we get used to things so quickly. We just live on autopilot that
Yeah,
I think like psychologically we just don't like change. But I think it's just thinking like, it's one day at a time. It's one small step at a time. And for me, there isn't really failure. There's only learnings. And let me share with you a little story why I think this is because why I left to London was because my relationship with my boyfriend of 9 years ended, and I ended that relationship. It was a hard call, and at the time, of course, it was super hard. Like I was very
yeah,
sad, and a year after we separated, I decided to move to London. And now, when I look at my life and I look at the growth I've experienced as a human and as a woman, I'm like, wow, that thing that we separated was like one of the best things that ever happened to me.
mm,
So sometimes, like, did it feel like a failure that the relationship ended when I was in that moment? Yeah, in a way, yes. But sometimes it's just useful to make the most out of any situation and still keep following your heart and doing things that really matter to you, because I always trust that it will kind of work out. So even in the moment when it feels like, oh, this didn't go according to plan, maybe sometimes there is a bigger plan that is not
yeah,
my plan, so
yeah,
you don't get the outcome you want. But then you just keep going day by day. You try your best because that's the best you can do. There's nothing else. You just give it your best effort, and then give it some time, like patience. I'm not good at that, but you just keep doing that stuff,
yeah,
and over time it will work out beautifully. And I've seen it happen in my life so many times that now I'm very trusting of my intuition and of my heart. So I guess, coming back to your first question, making the leap from leaving consulting and starting my own business was definitely, I had the trust. I knew that this will work out. I didn't know how, but I
hmm,
just knew within me that it will be okay.
yeah. And I think for just what you said there about the patience being a huge part of it, because again, things don't just happen overnight, as you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't.
So,
And a lot of it looks like it does. So when we look
yeah,
at social media and we hear these stories, but you don't know how much work there is behind that.
yeah,
And we just need to be mindful of change takes time. But the
hmm,
thing is that you need to make decisions. You need to decide that you want to change, and you need to commit, and you need to start doing that stuff, because otherwise someone else will decide for you.
yeah,
So not making decisions is a decision in itself. So too many people are waiting. And what you said before is that, if you wait for a long time, you'll never have the confidence or whatever to
yeah,
do anything. So it's important to really start understanding how you can guide your own life by making good decisions, making them often, and
hmm,
just following through each and every day. And you can
yeah,
change, it takes time, but if you don't even try, nothing's going to happen. Then you're just
yeah,
living life to someone else's standards.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I think coming from a place of, the world, say, dictating to us who we are, and I think that's very much very conditioned into us, to then coming from, okay, now I'm actually stepping into life coming from me as opposed to the outside. And I think that's, for me, is where the kind of trust comes from, because I think when you're coming from that place, when you're actually living from who you are inside and bringing that out into the world, that to me is like the ultimate kind of trust. And when you kind of keep doing that and you can demonstrate to yourself like what you're actually made of, I think that's when it starts to really kind of embody that you're like, okay, even if it's not all there yet, I can sense that this is exactly the right path that I'm on.
Absolutely. And I think, again, Aisling, you're pointing out something so important because these belief systems also come from our cultural narratives. And for
Mm.
me, for a long time in my early 30s, I was very successful in my consulting job and I really enjoyed my life because I enjoyed to travel and I had great friends and I just really loved London. And then there was the other part of me that felt like a failure because I wasn't married. And I still am not, and I didn't have any children. I still don't have any children, and that part of me I was frustrated with because I was like, why do I enjoy my life and I feel like, it's been really amazing, and on the other hand I feel like I failed? It's
Mm.
because, we have these conditioning, the cultural narrative that tells us women that by age 33, like, Anna, what are you doing? You're still single, no kids. So there's definitely work that needs to happen in that space as well. And again, trusting that I can do what I see is best for me. We all have
Mm-hmm.
free will.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge part of my work as well, to accept that I am not going with the flow where everyone
Yeah.
else is going, but I'm living my life according to my own standards and what I believe that is true for me.
Yeah. I love that.
Mm.
Because I think we are pressured into like the checkbox, like ticking the boxes and thinking that's the kind of the road to success and happiness, when
Mhm.
it's like, as you said, it's actually the societal beliefs, or this is the kind of the societal narrative that we kind of grow up in, and we think that we have to conform to it. But I think if you're bringing through anything new from you're bringing the unknown into the world, I think kind of part of that is, there's an element of your life that you have to kind of go against the grain in whatever way that looks like for you. And it's actually having the faith and the trust in your own self that like you are on your own path, and you don't have to live up
Absolutely.
to other people's expectations.
And also understand, I think first and foremost is the awareness. Where does this come from? Actually, the idea of having children and a marriage, it wasn't my idea. It actually comes from someone else.
Yeah,
So the ability and the skill to think for myself and for my own opinions and my own thoughts, it's very valuable. But first you need to become aware that actually this isn't like my idea to start with.
I know. Yeah,
So, but we live
yeah.
and we learn.
We live and learn. Yeah, because actually, I heard that it was a post by, is it Sarah Blakely, the
Mm-hmm.
owner of Spanx, and she
Spanx, yeah.
said that like that she was getting pressured all the time at every social event. Like, when are you getting married and when are you having kids, and she said she didn't meet her husband till later, and didn't actually have her first child till she was 37, and went on to have 4 children, was obviously having kids into her 40s, and again, it's just like, it's just having the kind of, yeah, the conviction in your own self that it's like, yeah, you don't have to feel that you're failing because you're not at the age that everyone says you should be doing these things. Yeah, that's massive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Another thing that you had spoken about recently was about what's happening in Australia, and with the fires and just the
Mhm.
environmental destruction that's happening. And I think, where we are right now, we can feel very powerless to the things that are happening in the world. But I think, and you had said that, that change can't happen from the outside. It has to happen from within us, and I think that's part of the kind of call to those who are listening to this podcast, and even to our own selves, to kind of step further into what we're doing. That it's like the world and the outside needs us to actually change as well. So it's not just a case of, oh, this is a kind of luxury self-development thing that you can want to go on, but it's actually a call to actually bring far greater change, and to bring the feminine into the very masculine patriarchal world that we're currently living in.
Yeah, so why I feel so strongly about Australia is because I studied there in 2006. I was an exchange student in Macquarie University in Sydney, and it's a beautiful country. I traveled the whole East Coast. I went to New Zealand and Fiji while I was there, and the people, the nature, the animals, it's an outstanding country, by all means. And I feel that currently what we are experiencing in the world is a call for us humans to raise our vibration, to raise our level of consciousness, and to
Mm-hmm.
understand that, you know, we experience our world through our beliefs and through our language. And it's very important for us to start to think, who am I? What is the identity that I carry? And how do I represent myself to the outer world? Because I feel that now it's the time more than ever for us people to just work together from love, again, not from fear, but from love, and understand that we are all in this together. And
Mm-hmm.
this is like something so big that we can't understand why this is happening, but all these things are strong signals for us that we need to change, and it is asking for all of us to change. So, you know, there's still people who are like, yeah, you know, one person doesn't matter, everyone matters.
Yeah.
And I just want to be part of this conversation in a way that I want to point out things, and I want to be like, are you thinking about this, and what do you think about, again, coming back to, are you forming your own opinions? Because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, your world is just a direct reflection of your belief system. So we
Yeah.
need to make sure that the change is really starting from inside out.
Yeah.
And I just feel like now is the time for that. And when you speak about the feminine, that's why I want to work with future female leaders, because us women have many amazing qualities. The feminine energy is very collaborative, it's very communal, it's very facilitative, and it just brings people together without not necessarily focus on outcome all the time, but just
Mm-hmm.
bringing people together. And being in boardrooms in major businesses with leadership teams and boards during my consulting days, I know what power feminine energy can have in context like this. And I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like this is what we need more, because we just need to come together as people. We need to work together more. And that is so crucial now for the future of our planet.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, this Australia is, what is going on is very sad, but at the same time, it's a very strong signal for us that it's time for all of us to act.
Yeah.
Even it doesn't matter where you are, but now, like if you're listening to this, you know, we just need to start changing now. Now is the
Mm.
time, all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because I even think, as you were saying, the outside is a reflection of what's happening within. And it's like really that kind of message of, the environmental issues that we're facing. For me anyway, it's like the disconnect that we have to nature and to like the cycles and the seasons and moving with the natural rhythm of the earth that we all stand on.
Mm.
And I know some people might be thinking, oh, that sounds like you're a hippie, but it's actually like necessary that we all start to reconnect to that part of ourselves, and so that we're actually in harmony with the earth and with ourselves, as opposed to working against it and in a very unsustainable way. Even within our own selves, I notice that, that I have to constantly call myself out where I'm trying to overdo and overproduce and overschedule and all these things, when it's like, well, that's really me being completely in the overpolarization into the masculine energy. And obviously we all have this, whether you're male or female or whatever gender you have, we all have male and female energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like actually starting to value the feminine and value the qualities of the feminine, and bringing that into your day, bringing that into your practice. And as you say, you might think, your mind be like, oh, well, sure, you're only one person, so what it's not going to make any difference. But it's like we're all feeding the collective by who we are as individuals. So that to me kind of makes me feel, not that I have to, it's not on all of us like to change everything, but it's like what you're called to embody, or whatever message you're here to live and to share, that you actually have a responsibility to do so. It's not even a choice. It's like just stepping into what you're called. And I think if you're in fear, it's like just to know that it's like we're all being called in different ways. And the more that we step in, it's like, even when I see you on your stories and you're sharing and you're doing your dance practice and you're doing, all the different, you're sharing about your podcast and, all the different really uplifting topics that you're sharing, that to me kind of just goes, oh, Anna's doing it, so you can do it as well. You know, so it's just like, you don't realize, like, you might not even realize just how encouraging that is, because you're just sharing your practice. But it's like, so it's just to give that as an example of like, you're sharing, or you embodying what you're practicing has such a powerful ripple effect on others, because it's like giving them permission to do the same.
Absolutely. Thank you for the lovely comment. And sorry, there's a buzzer ringing. I think I think it might be the Amazon guy. So, and you know what? I just want to say on that I think everything you said, I agree with. And if you're being ignorant, that's your choice, because there's information everywhere, and there's content is for free. There's so much content for free and all of this. So if you're being ignorant about things, that is your choice.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to now almost like, look in the mirror and be like, am I the best version of myself? Am I what I could be? And
Yeah.
just be really honest with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I used to think that that was like really pressurizing to even say that to myself, like, are you being the best version of yourself? Or, you know, I used to feel like there was such a massive gap between like who I envisioned myself to be and who I actually was. Um, and I think it's just like what you were saying, it's just the tiny small shifts, the tiny small decisions that you're making every day, they amount to the big change. So again, like this time in, like, you know, we're at the start of the year right now as we're recording, and it's like this kind of pressure of like new year, new me. And it's like this, it actually paralyzes people. And I know I've spoken to so many people now recently, and it's just like, we need to be very kind of mindful of how, like, we have to be very compassionate and gentle with ourselves as we do make those steps into becoming that better version of ourselves. Because as you were saying earlier, we're so like automatic living, you know, just like living from default. And so like creating those new habits and routines, just tiny steps, and then it's not overwhelming if it's like, if you're not asking yourself to try and change everything in like the first week of January, or, you know, doing all the
Absolutely.
things overnight.
And also let's remember that, change, it's not like a linear path, but, life
Yeah.
is like, we're like breathing, we inhale and we exhale. It's constantly ebbs and flows. But having an idea of what sort of person would you like to be? And so for me, this is maybe an idea that you'd enjoy. For me, it's about congruency in your emotions, thoughts, actions. Yeah. So how you are living your everyday life. When you go to bed in the evening, are you like, yeah, Anna, this was a good day? Or Aisling's like, I'm pleased with what I did today.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that congruency in your being, that's when I think, you're living a good life. And then we can always evolve, and we always, we want to grow, because otherwise we die, right? So we need to grow and change. We must do that. But there is this moment where we need to recognize what we are now and what we have, because we know from law of attraction that, you attract what you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, it's also that piece of gratitude of being like, you know what? All these things that we have now, everything that is working for me, who I am today, I did my best. And if you feel like, you know what, this really bothered me today, I don't think I was my best here, look into that and be compassionate and be like, how can I be different next time?
Yeah.
And that's how you make change. So it's not every time like, you need to be full speed, making everything happen at once. And this is coming from me, who is like massive type A, like,
Yeah.
let's do it now,
Let's do it now.
energy, like,
Yeah.
let's like, I wanted this happen yesterday. But
Yeah.
I'm constantly learning about this is just having some compassion and enjoying the journey, because this is a fun one. Because in the end, if you go for travel, what's your final destination? It's home. You'll be back home. So you're not doing it to be back home. You're doing it for the whole travel, for the whole experience that
Yeah.
you're going to have. So just for me, it's also like enjoying the process of change. And maybe this comes back to all of my previous stuff, all the big leaps, as we called them earlier, that I've done in my life, is enjoying those moments of uncertainty, being like, I'm not sure how this will work up. Isn't that exciting? Because normally we're like, I don't have a job, I'm panicking. I'm like, you know what? I have 20 CVs that I sent this week. Exciting. How is that going to work out? because
Yeah.
I get to decide the meaning that I attach to things. And then I'm enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying what is working out now. What is that I really have now in my life that I can be grateful for? Because
Hmm.
otherwise, you'll just constantly be wanting something. And then you're like, let me have that first and then I can be happy. And that, my friend, is
Mm.
definitely not going to be a sustainable way to do anything.
Yeah, I love that. So it's like, first and foremost, is like creating that foundation within ourselves of actually being grateful for what we already have and what's already working, as opposed to, I think, because for me, that was always a thing that I was coming from a place of lack, like where I want to change my health, I want to change the direction of my career, I want to change all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But it was always coming from an internal place of lack and fear and panic. Like even if I was doing all the things,
Mm-hmm.
like I would do them, like, and for example, with my health journey, which I've been on like for the past decade, um, for so long, I was doing it from a place of like, didn't trust my body, didn't trust if I didn't do the things correctly that I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't heal and all these
Mm-hmm.
things. And I learned very quickly that I had to establish that kind of sense of, my body's already working for me. That kind of sense of gratitude, even if I'm not there yet, I don't feel 100% yet, that it's like acknowledging what already is there and appreciating, and then coming to the bettering of my health from a place of fullness and kind of internal wholeness, as opposed to this void that I'm trying to fill. Like
Absolutely.
doing all the diet right, doing all the
Yeah.
supplements,
Yeah.
exercise. It was just like the underlying tone was just pure stress.
Yeah.
Which I had to learn the hard way, which I now obviously practice different in my own self, and share that with others who come to me for
Mm-hmm.
assistance.
And
But
also having that goal of I can't be this or that yet because I'm not there yet.
yeah,
That there yet is it will change. The location of that will change.
yeah,
So it's very important to realize that, there will always be more challenges. You'll always have more goals. You
hmm,
always come up with something new, which is great because we
yeah,
are innovative creatures. So that's good stuff. But just having a good time with today
yeah,
and being best friends. That's how I like to think about it. Like, I'll just try to make the best of what I have now,
yeah,
and let's see what comes out. And not every time it goes how I wanted that to go, but coming back to what I said earlier, it doesn't mean that it's failure. I've
hmm,
learned something and there's a bigger plan probably, and
yeah.
I can't see yet, but later it will make sense because it's easier always to connect the dots backwards.
Hindsight is a great thing.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
so good.
always.
Yeah.
But I think that's a huge thing, that for the kind of journey of navigating, like trusting, like developing that trust in yourself, developing that trust in life, the universe, the powers that run through everything, that it's like, is this whole thing of I'm either winning or I'm failing. And I think it's like that black and white thinking is the thing that really, like, has to go. It's just does
Mm,
not serve us in any way, shape, or form.
mm,
So I think that's a really key message that you're sharing, about that it's like, it's not about winning or losing, but it's actually, and this is something that I was actually talking about even yesterday, that it's like, you either you win, like you get the goal, you get the outcome that you wanted. But if it went wrong, or it went totally the way that you did not think it would be, it's like seeing it as the lesson. Oh my gosh, what's the lesson here? And then that takes you out of that place of disempowerment to
mm,
empowerment, very, very quickly, out of that like victim way of being, which is the thing that can put you down the downward spiral. And that's huge, because I think that's a huge thing about like the belief systems around, like, like for me anyway, in the school system, it's like, it's either you get it right or you get it wrong, and we're carrying that through then into our adult years. So I think this is something that we need to really give each other permission, that it's like, it's not a failing, it's a lesson. And once you gain the insight from that lesson, and then you, as you say, like change that, like, oh, like, how can I do that differently the next time? Well, then you're winning, because you're actually gaining the wisdom that you're meant to gain in this life experience.
mm. And also, I love that. And thinking about how can you ask yourself better questions? Like, is that how am I going to win? Is that even a good question?
Yeah,
It's just like, maybe a better question is how can I do the right thing for myself and others? how can I do something that now looks like the best option for me and others? Like, what is a good question? So sometimes we're like, I'm not sure if this is going to work out. I'm like, okay, make sure you're focused on the right thing, because where you focus, your energy flows. Is that if you're
Hmm.
saying, I'm not sure how this is going to work, you're already kind of proposing failure, or it's not going to work out. So we need to be
Yeah.
careful of how we focus on things and how we set ourselves up. So if you set yourself up with like you either win or you lose, it's like, well, if I look back on my life, I'm like, where did I win or lose?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's something that I want to start thinking about. I'd rather look at, things that I've experienced and learned. Let's look at
Hmm.
that, because that's definitely more insightful, and it makes me feel more empowered, because I'm like, you know what? That experience was really terrible, but I survived. You know how much stronger I am now, and I'm definitely not going to do that again, because last time it really sucked. So I learned from that.
Yeah. I love that. And this is the thing that came up for me, and I'm sure you can relate to this, like as you're a published author and you've put your work out into the
Oh.
world. Um, like that came up for me like at the start of this year, which I don't know, I do get obviously impacted by like New Year's new me, I was like, oh no, this is the year I have to do my book. And then I was thinking, oh, I don't know, should I even finish it? Who's even going to read it? These are
Mhm.
thoughts, my ego, which were kind of, maybe you shouldn't do it, like you have to have this inner dialogue with yourself. But it's like, what would you say to somebody, like even to me, who is doing this book? Like, what would you say, and other people who are listening in, who are like embarking on like new projects and maybe don't know the outcome and are kind of saying, I'm not sure if I want to kind of invest my time in this or put all this energy into this project and I don't know what the outcome is. What would you say to that in your own experience of like publishing your book and like
Mm,
all the process of that?
mm. So first and foremost, I'm super excited you're writing, so go for it. And sometimes, it can be really helpful to think about, this isn't really about you. Someone out there in the world must hear your message.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important you're going to share your message and your voice, because someone needs it.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we take the me out of the equation, it becomes easier,
Mm-hmm.
because you're doing it for someone else.
Yeah.
And it comes like, when people talk about, as a business owner, we talk about selling is terrible, or I can't sell that. Sometimes like, you're helping someone.
Yeah.
You're helping someone to move on in their life. And
Yeah.
then again, when you think about the book, wow, book is like, that's a big defeat. It's like, it's like, I can't even see the end of that tunnel.
Yeah.
Start writing. Make the commitment that you're going to write 1 hour each day. And then you're like, let me just finish that by August. And in August, you finish, because this is one of those things that you can be writing forever.
Mm-hmm.
So have that idea that, you're just going to write, and by that time, this will be ready, and I'm going to be publishing. And sometimes making the goal less of like having that idea of the bigger purpose behind it,
Mm-hmm.
the why are you doing it, you want to help someone, and framing it in a way that is positive to you. You're like, every day I'm going to write an hour, and some of them
Mm-hmm.
later you will edit and all of that, and then you have an idea of, this is when I'm going to finish it, and it's going to be amazing, this book is going to be beautiful. And then you just do that, because remember, everything starts from a thought. So if you have a positive emotion and thought in your body, that will produce positive action and
Mm-hmm.
behavior, that then gives you the result. You can't wait others to give you permission. You can't wait for a better time to come, because now is always the best time. And then
Yeah.
you should take small steps every day.
Mm-hmm.
And the world needs to hear this.
Yeah, that's massive. Huge, huge shift, because I think if you're focusing on what is the point of me doing this thing,
Mm,
because who's even going to listen to it?
mm,
Because again, like I don't know, the way everything, that consciousness stream is always coming into you.
mm,
And I just came across this quote yesterday, and I shared it, or not, I didn't share it actually, I just shared it onto my phone just to kind of look at it myself. And it was like, you can't speak words of defeat and expect good results.
mm.
So I was kind of
I love
like,
that.
it was like it really hit home to me. And I was
Mm,
like, you can't be like, oh, who's going to read this thing, or who's going to even listen to my message, or whatever is the babble talk inside.
mhm.
That's like, stopping the momentum. And it's like, well, if you're actually, I think, and your whole key of like, you really work on the mindset. And
Mm.
I was thinking of that this morning before we came on to record. And I was like, if you're to embark into the unknown, you actually have to really discipline your mindset. Like, you can't allow it to go into those,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah,
obviously,
agree.
we can have our, you know, allow all the range of emotions. And if you need to cry, you need to have meltdowns,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. But in general, you have to be thinking in a very strong way when you are going into the unknown, and if you are going into a huge new project that you have no idea of the outcome. But if you're entering it going, oh, I'm not sure if it's not even going to, I think when you're starting from that point, it's like you have to kind of almost say, let's just take a step back here, and we need to change our mindset before we
Mm-hmm.
actually enter into this process.
And I'd like to challenge you a little bit on that one when you said you don't know the outcome, because
Yeah.
you are the creator of the outcome. So now you need to have that vision in your, like, you just need to hold that vision for you, that this book is going to be beautiful. It's going to be a great book, because you are need to create it. And this is how we start changing the neural pathways in our brain, the mindset. And as you said, we need to be very mindful of what we let in and how we
Mm-hmm.
talk to ourselves. And it's that daily practice of holding that mindset. But if you have this bigger vision and you have a bigger purpose, so that you're framing yourself in the right way, you're giving yourself a chance, rather than being, I'm not sure who's going to read it. It doesn't feel very empowering. So you want to
Mm-hmm.
give yourself all the possible tools, and then you just need to go, you must go after it.
Yeah.
So it is that decision, commitment, that mindset work for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing's going to change if you don't change. And that is
Yeah.
so true. So we just need to, like, we have the opportunity to change. Yes, it requires work. It requires
Mm-hmm.
consistent work. But if you don't do the work, nothing's going to change. Your
Yeah.
life currently is the result of how you're thinking, how you're acting today. If you want to change anything, you must change.
Yeah. I love that. Daily practice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
small
Yeah,
things.
absolutely. So tell us, what is your vision for 2020 for your work, and what you want to say to all the female leaders or future female leaders as well?
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a great question. So for 2020, as I've only started my business last year, so it's still very new. So this year, I want to have a really strong message consistently across my Wonder Woman platform. So my brand is called The Wonder Woman, based on my book, The Wonder Woman Playbook. And for me, the the women that I am calling to join this tribe, they are women who understand that to lead others, you need to lead yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that to lead myself, I need to look after these things that we've spoken about at length during this podcast. But to lead others, I also need to have some good skills and a very good mindset, because we need to start moving from love. We need to start moving from compassion. We talked about this feminine energy and how we can actually start to change lives around us as well. And I know to many women, when I say you're a leader, it can be scary.
Mm-hmm.
But really, to become a leader, even if it's a family, if it's a team, if it's a business, if it's, I don't care what it is, but to really start to stand up and step up and take responsibility over your life and start to positively impact others. That's what I want to talk about this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that us women have this enormous potential to change this world for the better. We need men too, but I know we have a lot of untapped potential in us women, and I will need to play my part in this. So I will be working closely with these movers and shakers to start to ignite more change in the world. And I believe that that is done through the rising of consciousness in us women. So we just need to learn about ourselves more. I would say we need to remember who we are
Yeah.
and really just acknowledge the power we have and be like, you know what? I'm good. I'm a good person. And this is how I want to run my life. And I also want to help others. And, we come from this point, and not like, I talk about personal power, which can be scary. And I talk about confidence, which can be scary. But really, this is about starting to lead your own life, which then can be only as an inspiration to others as well. Doesn't mean that you need to lead anyone. It can be a source of inspiration, but that's the dialogue that I want to have, because I know there's a lot of work in corporates as well. So this is my calling, and I'm devoting my life to service of others. So it's going to be a huge year. I feel it in my bones already.
Yeah, amazing. So what would be your final words for everyone listening on moving from fear to trust, and especially where we are now, 2020, this new decade? What would be your message?
So I would say that when you finish listening to this podcast, you go and do something right away. There is no better time as the present moment, and we need to start creating momentum. So engagement and doing stuff brings clarity. Don't wait, take action. Don't always worry about the outcome. There's so many different ways to get to your goal, and just start doing things when you feel like this is a good thing to do. Go and do it. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait until tomorrow. Do it now.
Wonderful. So Anna, let everyone know where they can find you online.
Well, I'm in multiple places, so maybe a good place to go is to my website, annakuusela.com. And on my last name, indeed, has 2 U's, which I know for many is a feat in itself. I am then on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I have my podcast, but all of that can be found from my website.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anna. It's been an absolute pleasure. And this conversation has given me so much more insight and momentum into just taking those steps, whatever, if they're tiny, if they're big, just do them and keep showing up. So thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to see what you're going to achieve this year. So thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, thank you.